Water clarity can be a puzzle all year, but it can be especially troublesome in the fall or any time that we have a lack of rainfall. In this video, we're going to break down 3 important water clarity factors that will help you decide where to start fishing. Well, take a look at this bay right here, the one behind me. Most of the year, it looks like this. And even at times in the spring when there is lots of rain, it looks like this. Well, right now with the lack of rainfall and dropping water levels, it looks like this. Even at the 10-foot mark, you can see everything. Well, as you can imagine, the fishing in this area is extremely difficult at best. So how do we know what type of water clarity to look for, what is best, and why? All great questions. Well, the first factor, it is important to know that while water clarity can be affected by a multitude of influences, we are focusing on 2 in this video: water movement and nutrients. And oftentimes, these are closely linked. The nutrient factor is important because it means an abundance of microorganisms are present, and that kicks off the entire food chain, which is what we want. But this is always in flux. Now, while I have cut my teeth on clear water fishing, slightly stained water is what I prefer. Or another way to look at it is water that has that 2 to 4 foot clarity range. Not only does slightly stained water often exist when there are lots of nutrients, it also gives me more confidence as an angler because it hides my movements a little better than an ultra clear water. I also feel that slightly stained water is the perfect mix for bass to utilize more of their senses equally. In other words, both sight and vibration detection or sound. Bass in ultra clear water tend to be more sight driven, whereas bass in dirty water rely more on vibration or sound detection. My hope is that stained water is more of a balance between those 2 extreme ends of the spectrum. And this leads me into factor number 2. How do you like to fish? We all have strengths and weaknesses. If you love fishing ledges and running crankbaits or Carolina rigs, offshore, you're going to lean more towards the water with better visibility on your lakes or rivers. Now, if you are someone who loves fishing shallow water, we need some color to the water to be most effective, especially if you like to get close to the target areas you are fishing. A perfect example of this was covered in a video I did last year. After a heavy rainfall, the water in a shallow cove clouded up, and it was full of life of all species. The really clear water right next to it, I couldn't hardly find any life. Now, this water was not dirty. It was just cloudier than normal, and I believe the fish were using this cloudy water almost like another form of cover where they felt a little less exposed. Now, factor number 3 is understanding how these water clarities change or move over time. And by time, I mean anywhere from a day or 2 to something like a month. Obviously, wind and boat wakes can really stir up an area, and these transition areas between clearer and dirtier water can be excellent places for predators to set up. So, on busy weekends, this can be a factor to keep in mind. When it comes to rainfall and water clarity from runoff, well, this will move and dissipate as the water travels through something like a reservoir. Here is a perfect example. When I open up my deep dive app and punch in Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, we can see, based on the key on the bottom here, that most of this lake is very clear right now, with the stained water way in the upper portions of the river arm. Now, this transition area right here, for me, would be a great place to start. I have a lot of confidence when fishing spots like this. But this is what is interesting. Take a look when we go back in history. We can see by scrolling through the past month that the location of the stained water transition has varied. This is extremely common in the fall when rainfall slows down. So if I was fishing, let's say this next week, it may mean I need to move even farther up the river arm. And in case you're wondering, this data is gathered from satellite images. Prolonged cloudy weather will delay the information displayed, but this is a great way to narrow down what part of the lake to think about if you're wanting the benefits that stained water can provide. Water clarity is by far and away one of the most important factors to consider, but we often put it on the back burner if we have history on a lake. But those favorite spots in the past may draw us in no matter what the clarity is like, even if a better location may be farther up or down the lake. Well, thank you to the Deep Dive app for sponsoring this video. It's available both in the Google Play Store for Android as well as the App Store for iPhone. Links are below for more info. And hey, if you want to watch a video that talks about oversized terminal tackle on a finesse stick bait or finesse TRD and what's it really look like and why does this seem to be all over right now, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change someone's life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.